Okay, you're good to go, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Monday, April 18th council meeting. We're back on Zoom out of precaution. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Moved by Rebecca Luck, seconded by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that the April 18th, 2022 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 7:02 p.m. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. I'll now ask everyone to rise for the playing of our national anthem. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 3, approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments? Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have one item that's been pulled from information only for discussion and other business, that being item 7DE, the report regarding emergency water work updates.
All righty, thank you for that. So noted. Moved by Sam McDonnell, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. And moving on to item number 4, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Councillor Luck.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to declare on 7AD as I work with EVB Engineering.
Okay, thank you for that. And the clerk will send you the proper form. Approval of the minutes of the April 4th meeting. Moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that the minutes of the April 4th, 2022 council meeting, including the closed session minutes, be adopted as circulated. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And moving on to presentations and delegations, I'll hand it over to Ms. Servage. You're here to announce our delegation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. This delegation is regarding the funding that the township has received through the Ontario Trillium Foundation. We have received $23,400, which was part of the Capital Stream Community Building Fund. These funds will go towards installation of 2 bocce ball courts at Kenneth Barton Memorial Park in Martintown. This project will begin in early summer and will be completed this year. We are excited for this project as it will enhance the accessibility and variety of recreational programming in our township. We believe it will become a popular amenity among residents in the community and will support active aging. This project is in line with the township's strategic goals that include investing in infrastructure and its sustainability, as well as improving the quality of life in our community. We have MPP McDonnell here tonight with us, so I'll pass it over to him now, and he will speak to the funding initiative.
Thank you, Ms. Servige. Go ahead, MPP, whenever you're ready.
Sure, I just want to join you, I guess, congratulate you. I thought it would be in person, but I guess it's a sign of the times. South Glengarry with these additional bocce courts will be the bocce capital of the world. I think they have 3 or 4 at Art Buckland's place now, and this will be a great addition to, because I know that I haven't been there for a few years, but a few years ago, I know they have quite a group that are interested in play. It's a great game for seniors, and it gets people active socially. So I think that's really important. So 23,000 on behalf of the Trillium Fund that looks at funding our communities, making sure that they, an extra addition now because of COVID, but just over the years have been funding many important projects in the community. So I just want to congratulate you again and say I know that this follows in the tails of our green funding in the last week with the for South Glengarry, the Glenwalter Water Tower. So that's more great news, and hopefully there'll be some internet news this week. So
great. Well, thank you very much, MPP McDonnell, for these funds. I know that on behalf of council, I can speak that our Martintown Community Center is certainly the most utilized center in South Glengarry. Certainly with the seniors, they embrace it, and I know that these bocce ball courts will be put to good use. So thank you for that, and secondly for the funding with the Green Fund. It's certainly was very, very well received, and we are looking forward to getting that project completed for our residents.
Well, I know it's been an issue for many years, so it's nice to see that project come to fruition.
I think you were sitting at the table when it was starting to come into focus a bit. So we're happy to see you deliver with it.
Yeah. Well, it'd be great to see it, the shovel being turned and the work going on. So great work for council for bringing that up.
Perfect. Any other questions or comments for MPP? Seeing none, we thank you very much for your presentation, and we'll continue on with the rest of our meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great evening. All righty, moving on to 7AA, review of policy 06-2021, vaccination verification policy, coronavirus. Mr. Mills.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you, good evening, council. Tonight's staff report is a follow-up to the information report that I presented to council at the last meeting on April 4th to get feedback from you, and also to take the temperature, get a lay of the land on how things are going with coronavirus in the community, and whether to consider rescinding our policy or keeping it. Just a reminder to council that on the recommendation of the Eastern Ontario Health Unit, we did put the policy in place. All of our staff, full-time, part-time, and seasonal, are compliant with the policy. However, we have 10 firefighters through the fire service that are on leave due to non-compliance with the policy. It was about a month ago on March 21st that the lifting of the mask and eye protection were no longer required in indoor facilities in different sectors, including some roles within our municipality and certainly in indoor spaces. The result has been a dramatic rise in the number of cases. It's impacting our communities, schools, certainly some staff, and indeed most people online here, either someone in their family or indirect or direct contact, and it is having an impact on service delivery a little bit. The levels on the rise with water and with wastewater testing in Ottawa, it's been the highest to date. I think last week it slowed down a little bit, but the number of cases continues to rise. As a result, the medical officers in the hospitals, the chief of staff have really recommended everyone to get vaccinated who is not, limit close contacts, wear a mask in indoor spaces, and probably the most important one is to stay at home when you're sick to limit transmission. With in about 10 days, we're going to be lifting all of the public health orders that the province enacted. Rescinding of the policy then would allow for the return of 10 firefighters. We're currently on inactive status as a result of the policy, as I mentioned. Just of note to council, though, employers are legally required under the Occupational Health and Safety Act to take every reasonable precaution to protect the health and safety of workers. It's the feeling of administration with discussion and from me as the CEO, if we don't maintain the vaccination policy now, certainly we would put staff at greater risk. It's important to note that although some township services are over the phone or online, that there are many employees who are frontline service, and the concern is always with the lifting of the policy that we could take some things down, so to speak. In fact, tonight we're scheduled maybe to have a storm, believe it or not, that we might have to have the roads crew out. We got building inspections, fire responses, other services we provide like marriage ceremonies that can be impacted. I've given you a municipal overview of some townships and or municipalities that are keeping their policy or not. It's a mixed bag there. Some are keeping it, some aren't. Regardless of council's decision regarding the vaccination policy, we certainly as a staff and as administration are openly communicating with one another, respecting privacy, but many of us who are impacted, we say we understand about our privacy, but we want to make sure we're not obligated to even contact trace anymore. But we're certainly helping one another and keeping things rolling. And I'm certainly proud of the staff that it hasn't been an easy few weeks in the community, and certainly at the office and out in different spots. So I'll leave that with you. There's really three options, council, to decide tonight: to not rescind the policy, to rescind the policy, which was attached, and we'd make that effective April 27th if you rescind it, or you can give alternative direction for consideration to me as the CEO to work with staff. At this point, administration recommends the council does not rescind the policy, and we review it in the very near future. Thank you very much for the ongoing support of council, Mr. Mayor. It's a challenge, but we're almost 2.5 years into the challenge, and we're meeting it. So thank you.
Yep, thank you very much, Mr. CEO. I certainly agree. It's been a challenge for staff lately and for the last 2 years, along with members of council and the public. I certainly am fine with leaving the policy as is for the time being. I know there was a pretty good discussion at our last council meeting. Obviously, we're on Zoom for a reason tonight. So it's certainly, COVID certainly is present. So are there any questions or comments of other members? Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Warden, just quickly, like you, my position on this hasn't changed. The COVID situation since our last meeting has actually gotten worse. And so I think in terms of responsibility to our staff as a whole, responsibility to our residents who interact with our staff, I think at this point we should stay the course and follow staff's direction on this and review it, in a short time frame, but at the moment keep it status quo. Thank you.
Councillor Luck, Councillor McDonnell, then Councillor Lang.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm just going to resonate what you and Deputy Mayor Jaworski mentioned, that I'm for keeping the policy in place and evaluate it at a later date, hoping that things will improve. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so I'll differ with the rest of you. I think what should come up at this point, nobody has to prove vaccine to go into a restaurant. We don't stop our residents who aren't vaccinated from coming into the office. At this point, I really think it's got a potential of costing us more money, because it's harder to get, we're then making any contractors that come in to do any work in the office schedule around that based on who's vaccinated and not vaccinated on their teams. Obviously, I don't have the support here tonight, so that's my 2 cents. I don't think we should be enforcing it if it's not required. To use other facilities, yes, it's still there for transportation, but it's not there for any other facilities. So I don't think it should be for our employees.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. And not to just repeat what everyone else has said, but I think it's important on this issue that we all give our 2 cents so that the public knows where we stand and why we're there. I'm going to go with the majority. I'm going to say that we keep it in place for now. I do think it does need to go, and in the not too distant future, but I think we're just a little bit ahead of where that point is. I think we need to give it a month or two and revisit this issue. So I'm going to vote to keep it in place for now.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Lang. So, Mr. CAO, we have the support to keep it in place, but I'd like it to come back in 1 month. So at our second meeting in May, and I think at this time, it is a hot button issue, and I think that it should be reviewed once a month until the policy is rescinded. Is that okay?
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor.
All right, so I'm going to read the resolution. Moved by Rebecca Luck, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 49-2022 be received, and that council direct that policy 06-2021, being a vaccination verification policy, coronavirus, remain in place until further review. All those in favor of the motion?
Can I call a recorded vote?
Absolutely. Madam Clerk, can you do a recorded vote for this one, please?
Absolutely. So I'll call each of you individually, and please state whether you are in favor or opposed to the motion. So Councillor Luck.
I'm in favor.
Councillor McDonnell.
Against?
Councillor Lang.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
In favor?
And Mayor Warden.
In favor.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. All right, sorry, there's a few pages on this one here. And moving on to staff report 50-2022, application for temporary exemption permit. Ms. Compo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, the request that's before council this evening is a request from a resident who's seeking an exemption to our nuisance bylaw, which is sometimes also referred to as our noise bylaw. So this individual is hosting a wedding on their private property, and they are seeking an exemption to the sections of the schedule that prohibit noise, as well as shouting, I guess you could refer to as noise from individuals, given they're going to have approximately 100 guests at their wedding. So should council approve this request, there's a permit that is signed off by the clerk that would be provided to this individual, so that if there were any complaints on the day of their event, they would have the permit authorizing the exemption to the bylaw. And I do believe Ms. Bruna is on the call as well, if you have any questions specific to the bylaw itself.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. This is something I've never seen before in my time on council, and I'm just curious to know if the resident requested this or staff recommended it. Because I mean, I've been to many weddings on private properties throughout the municipality, and this was something new to me. So, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Through you, Mr. Mayor. My understanding is that it was requested by the resident, so it's someone who clearly did their homework. It would be a requirement in our bylaw. There have been requests of this nature in the past, but not related to weddings. It was more so related to construction work that was going to be taking place outside of regular, outside the hours. But correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Bruna, but this resident approached the township as they had read the bylaw and determined that they needed that permit.
You're correct, Madam Clerk.
Okay, fair enough. Good to know that we have residents out there that read the bylaws. Are there any other questions or comments of members of council? Nobody hand up? Okay. Moved by Martin Lang, second by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 50-2022 be received, and that the council of the Township of South Glengarry hereby grant a temporary exemption permit to nuisance bylaw 2016-20 for activities 1 and 2 of Schedule 2 to Keith Grant for a wedding to be held at 18103 County Road 19 on August 27th, 2022, and furthermore, the clerk be authorized to execute the approved permit. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And moving on to Ms. Brunet again, 7AC Animal Control Bylaw. Ms. Brunet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. This evening, I'll be coming forward with the third reading for the proposed animal control bylaw. Following our previous meeting, council had suggested some alterations to the Part 8 section, which refers to prohibited animals. Therefore, continuing some research, I have created a Schedule D, and that will include all the prohibited animals within our municipality. If it's not listed, it means that it is permitted or permitted as per the zoning bylaw. I don't believe that there's any other really concerns. There was something brought forward by a council member, and I would like to bring it forward to the rest of council regarding the pickup of waste. So I received a question which indicated, would it be preferred or a better option to alleviate residents from the requirement to pick up their waste between the months of November 15th to April 1st? I would like to leave that up to council as well as Section D for discussion this evening, if anyone has any questions regarding that. So with that excrement pickup, it would mean that during the winter months, the residents would not be required to pick it up, or we can have additional exceptions, which says unless, it rains and all of the waste is exposed, therefore you'd have to pick it up along those lines, or we keep it as is. I'm open to council's discussions.
Okay, no worries. It's a good discussion to have. I seen a funny meme on the internet the other day, and April is dog doo-doo awareness month. I thought it was quite funny. So thanks to the member who brought that up. I think it's a relevant discussion. Councillor McDonnell, you had your hand up.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Ms. Brunet, for bringing that forward. We'd had a brief conversation on that, and I kind of chuckled after as well. When I was getting ready for council, I saw there's a service being performed or was being advertised at the Glengarry News called, I think it was something Troopers, or in particular for this work. But anyways, it was just a comment I had just based on, as we get into snowfalls, they start, we're not going to see them, and they expect residents to run out every time the dog goes out to follow them out with a scoop shovel, and maybe a little over the top. I understand in some of our hamlets, it's, tighter quarters and smaller yards. So it's not like they're running out into a nearby field every day, but just you never know. Sometimes neighbors get bitter with one another, and it just takes a little bit of that off to expect neighbors to be walking out with their boots with a shovel to pick it up every other day. So, and I don't know, like Ms. Brunet said, maybe put a provision in there that, leave it up to the bylaw officer's discretion that, okay, it is an excessive amount of waste, say you had 4 dogs in a small yard in the hamlet, maybe there'd be an excessive amount, and you'd start to see it, say, in early March or something along those lines. But just be a decent time frame to give people just as a little alleviation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thank you, Ms. Bonet, for the update to the bylaw, and I know this is here for third reading. I think I'm going to say that I'm okay with leaving the bylaw the way it is. We had a lengthy discussion this afternoon. I think you've covered everything that I was concerned about. And as far as whether or not they could be exempt for the winter, I think we need to remember that this is on a complaints basis. So, I mean, if it snows and the neighbor can't see anything, and there's not going to be any complaints, So, then you don't have to have those exemptions for where the houses are tight together and there's 4 dogs in a side yard that maybe where they do, or it does need to be picked up, it's right outside the window of the neighbor if the houses are close. So I would be willing to leave it the way it is. And thank you very much for putting it all together.
Thank you. Any other questions before I go back to Councillor McDonnell from someone else? Councillor McDonnell.
Just a comment to Councillor Langs. I understand his thinking as well, and my head was there and I was back and forth on it, but this would take a little bit more away from the plaintiff and more into the property owner's hands. Sometimes neighbors get a little aggressive with one another, and this is a pretty easy way to make somebody's life a bit of a miserable week, having to go out and pick up excrement in the yard, we'll say. But this year, as you know, we were getting a snowfall pretty near every week, but that would mean if the dog went out on Monday and Tuesday, you could have Bylaw there pestering them by Wednesday to pick up dog waste just for the sake of it's in the bylaw. If we take it out of the bylaw, it gives people a little more freedom. And if we leave it to Ms. Brunet's discretion, if it is excessive, I think she can make that call. But that was just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Ms. Brunet. I understand Councillor McDonnell's point, but I think if you had somebody calling you in December and complaining about dog poop, I think you're going to use your discretion right off the bat anyways. And then if it is excessive, then it would escalate. So I certainly am fine with the bylaw as it's written. And I do want to thank you for Schedule D. I think it gives a lot more clarity to it and gives you defined what is and what isn't. So I thank you for that addition. I'll go to Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Warden. Yeah, I think because it's complaint driven, I'm okay with how it's written as it stands. If we end up seeing that this becomes a tool and we neighbor wars, maybe it's something we look at again in the future. But I think 3 days is probably okay. But actually, you prompted my my memory in that I did have a question about Schedule D. Just if we needed to make it, if a change was required to Schedule D, I was wondering if Ms. Brunet could just walk us through that process. Is it sort of reopening the whole bylaw, or is it a more streamlined thing?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Jaworski. Yes, if we do have to amend Schedule D, we come to council, we can do first, second, and third reading all in one, saying what we want changed. And then it's done as per the public's eye and council's eye. My end, it just has to change for set fines, which is something that's not urgent matter anyhow, because our municipality doesn't like getting to that point, and we never want to. So it's a super fast process. We would come into one council meeting, and if needed to, and we can close it all in one shot. In regards to, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, regarding the dog waste, realistically, if there's if the neighbor took a photo one day of the dog excrement and 3 days later he saw the guy never came back out to pick it up, but it's snowed in between, if I can't see the problem, I can't address the problem. So if there's snow there, I'm not going to make the neighbor dig out to find his dog excrement. It'll be left until, rainfall or sunshine, and then they'll have to pick it up.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions before I read the resolution? Seeing none, moved by Sam McDonnell, second by Rebecca Luck. Be resolved that staff report 51-2022 be received, and that bylaw 23-2022, being a bylaw to regulate the care, control, and licensing of animals within the township of South Glengarry, be read a third and final time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 18th day of April 2022. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much for your hard work on this report, Ms. Brunet. There was a lot in there, so thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Yeah, great. So moving on to staff report 53-2022, part lot control, Place Saint Laurent, phase 5. Miss Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. The staff report before you pertains to a request to exempt the lots contained within phase 5 of Place Saint Laurent subdivision and exempt them from part lot control. Basically, just to make that into more of plain language, There are 20 lots in this phase of the subdivision. The utilities are installed in the front yard setback of each of the lots. According to the Ontario Planning Act, when you install hydro utilities, it automatically allows municipalities and the lawyers to convey the easement to the utility company or to the hydro company to allow them to access that utility for maintenance, installation, and things like that. However, the Planning Act does not exempt any other utilities, and those other utilities could be Bell, Cogeco, Enbridge Gas. So therefore, the request that's before us this evening is to request exemptions from part lot control for lots 1 through 20. And you'll see in the bylaw that is attached to the staff report, it will explain all the different sections where the removal of part lot control pertains to. If council approves this bylaw this evening, then it will allow us to send the bylaw to the United Counties for final approval, as they're the approval authority for subdivisions, condominiums, part lot control, and consents. And then the bylaw would be registered accordingly, which would then allow the lawyer to register the easements in favor of the applicable utility companies. So if there's any questions, please let me know.
Great. Thanks very much, Ms. Haley. It's always neat to see different aspects of the Planning Act come before us. So this is a new one for me, and I think it makes total sense. Are there any questions or comments of members of council? Seeing none, moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that staff report 53-2022 be received and that bylaw 28-2022 being a bylaw to exempt certain lands from part lot control for the property known as Place Saint Laurent subdivision, phase 5, legally described as part of lot 3, registered plan 101, being lots 1 through 20 on registered plan 14M15 in the geographic township of Charlottenburg, township of South Glengarry, in the county of Glengarry, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 18th day of April 2022. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much for your work on that file, Ms. Haley. And moving on to 7AE, fire services fleet purchases. Chief Robertson.
Good evening, everyone, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This evening, I'll speak to you about fleet purchases with regards to fire services. The 2022 budget includes a replacement of 1 pumper truck. With everyone is well aware of the supply chain issues that we're currently experiencing, especially with regards to fleet, both with the municipality and in our own personal lives. What I'm bringing forward tonight is for council's consideration, because we're basically chassis purchases, fleet purchases are well in excess of 365 days, well more than a year to get new vehicles in the fire industry. For council's consideration, the asset management plan speaks to purchasing a truck within this calendar year and another pumper truck within next calendar year. I'm bringing this staff report forward for council to ponder if it makes sense that we go out to tender for a combined 2 pumper trucks, and those would be tendered in the coming months, and that would come back to council for your consideration as to whether the prices, if there's a benefit to both from the supply chain issue and that delay, but also having 2 units built at the same time, if we would achieve fiscal benefits to that. So when vehicles such as these 2 are purchased, they're purchased out of fire reserves. Fire reserves has significant funds in it that would cover both of these purchases, along with other items that are listed in the staff report, those being renovation to the fire hall in Williamstown, the new location, and the current year pumper. So we can continue on with a single purchase this year. I would like to have council consider actually adding that to be pumper truck purchase, and that would come in at some point, either late 2022 or at some point during the 2023 fiscal year, so calendar year. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Robertson. I think this is a very smart strategic move. I think that municipalities have to be doing this type of thing in the current climate. I know we've done it at the counties with a plow truck, so I certainly am in favor of this. And this is a perfect example as to why you need to have reserves. And this is not going to affect our budget whatsoever. So Deputy Mayor had her hand up, and then Councillor McDonnell.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Warden. Thank you, Chief Robertson, for your report. I support your suggestion of trying to go ahead and order two, because the chance of us getting one this year are slim to none. And so we might as well get our order in for this one and next year at the same time. And let's fingers crossed that means we'll get some economies of scale on that. And I also just wanted to say thank goodness for our excellent asset management planning for the fire service, from your work and our former treasurer Lachlan McDonald's work on developing that, so that, as Mayor Warden said, it's all, we have the reserves for it, and we're able to make these kind of decisions. We're able to pivot and make poor situations into good ones. So thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, I'll agree with you as well, Mr. Robertson. I think this is a great initiative this way. Move forward with some of these purchases that we know are inevitable, and they've been in our asset management plan that you've been very successful with, and as Deputy Mayor Jaworski said, with our former treasurer. Can you just confirm in my head, I'm thinking that in the past we've only had very limited bidders on our tenders that way. So just kind of I think I want to say there's two suppliers in the province of Ontario, but I think in a few occasions we've only had one bid as well on tenders. So just if you can speak to that.
Mr. Mayor. Yes, in the most recent tender opportunities that we've published, we haven't had a large amount of submissions. There are considerably more than two manufacturers in Ontario, and more dealers than that. So there are a fair number. This year, both through we're going to try to list through LAS Canoe. We're going to try some different things to make these procurements and widen those opportunities. I'm also going to be speaking to a number of manufacturers to ascertain interest. In the next month, I have a Chiefs conference to attend. So yeah. So
excellent. That was just kind of a point that I was kind of trying to make was, in the past we haven't always had much competitive. Well, we would assume they're competitive bids, but they've always been within the budgeted amount for the most part. But it was just one of those that maybe this could drum up a little more, I guess, competitiveness as far as giving a flexible timeline as well. So. No, thanks for bringing this forward. I think it's a good initiative to start moving on.
Okay, great. Councillor Luck.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have any questions for you, Chief Robertson. I just wanted to say I'm definitely in favor of what you brought forward. I think this is a prime example of how asset management is such a crucial element to all of our townships. So thank you very much for organizing that and going through it. And I think this is also just prime example also of how we have to adapt to the times. And I think it's been clear to everyone that there has been shortages and there has been supply chain issues. And I definitely recommend, I'm in support of your recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Robertson. I did want to say that while attending the Good Roads Conference, I attended the canoe booth, and it's very interesting what they're doing. And I think it's they just do a really good job and help municipalities in a lot of ways. And I know we were very lucky with those guys in regards to our arena. So maybe there's a good avenue for us in that realm for your fire trucks. And actually, that's another thing too, Chief, before I go. Can we get a comprehensive update on where our fleet is and the plan over the next year, just in the next couple weeks or months, just so we can kind of see where we're going? In my mind, I want to say there's been at least 4 new trucks since my time on council, and maybe more, but I could be wrong on that. But we can't have these 2 will probably finally eliminate the final 2 1990s vehicles in our fleet.
For the most part, our frontline units, yes.
Correct. Okay, great. Seeing no other questions or comments, moved by Rebecca Luck, second by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 54-2022 be received and that council authorize administration to proceed with a request for proposal for the purchase of 2 fire pumper vehicles. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you all very much. And moving on to staff report 52-2022, Pre-Canopy and natural vegetation policy. Here we go, Miss Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As per your request, you have asked me to bring forward the draft tree canopy and natural vegetation policy for second reading. And I'm just going to give a bit of an overview to explain to members of council and the public what has occurred to date. So we started this process a little over 2 years ago, and we brought the draft policy for first reading to council on March of 2019. Following the direction of council, we proceeded to host a public meeting, as well as to present the draft policy to the Agricultural Advisory Committee. During the public meeting that was held, we did the Agricultural Advisory Committee meeting on April 3rd, 2019, and I've attached those minutes to the staff report. And there was definitely good feedback that was received. And then that proceeded to host a public meeting on September 9th, 2019. As you can see in my report, it was a well-attended public meeting. We had 83 people in attendance, which resulted in 13 members of the public presenting during the meeting and 23 written comments received. And those comments were also attached to this staff report. Following that public meeting, we then held a special meeting of council on November 22nd, 2019, to review the comments that were received by council and then to seek council's direction on how they wanted to move forward. Well, 2020 then occurred, and a lot happened in 2020 with the beginning of COVID, many other priorities and some uncertainties regarding holding of meetings, how we were moving forward, opening and closing the municipal office. And now that all this time has passed, we're now bringing the report back to council for consideration. In order to be able to move forward in finalizing the policy, I would require clear direction from council as to what you would like to either include in the policy, remove from the policy, or if you want to leave it as is. I'm here to listen to your feedback, take your direction, and present a final document for your consideration if you choose for a third reading, possibly sometime in the near future. So at this time, I'm happy to answer questions, but I'm really hoping that I'll learn from council what your wishes are. So thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Ms. Haley, for bringing this forward again at my request. This has been on the books since early in our term, and we are, well, we're almost at the end of it, and we do have a new member on council. So I'd like this to come back in the second meeting in May. Does that work for your schedule, Ms. Haley? And basically, this is the final call for comments or suggestions. And then I would like Ms. Haley to bring this forward for third and final reading, and it either gets approved or it does not. And then it's off the books. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just was hoping to get a comment from Councillor Lang on this. We both sit on the Ag Advisory Committee as well as the Glengarry Federation of Agriculture. May is a bit of a busy month for us, and just for ourselves to maybe get some input from some of those people that would be stakeholders in this, as well as affected by it. Maybe it'd be wise to give us a little extra time, maybe the first meeting in June. I don't know how Councillor Lang feels about that.
Councillor Lang, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thank you, Mr. McDonnell, for the comments. I have two minds. I mean, I do agree with you. It's very busy. I don't think we're going to get a huge amount of you know, comments and so forth from the ag community this time of year. But I read through everything that Ms. Haley put on the thing. We have a lot of comments. The ag community was very good to comment in the first round, and has given us most of their comments. I think at this point it's us as council, and I'll take blame myself. We just haven't got around to you know, saying exactly what we want to have in there. So I mean, if we are at an impasse in May when it comes back and we're not sure where to go with it, then I guess we have that option of reaching out and asking for more feedback again. But I do think there was a lot there. I think it's up to us to take all that feedback now and do something with it. There's some things I think are going to be easy in there. Some things that are a lot of the people, almost everybody in some instances, like on our township owned property for as far as green roads, this sort of thing, there was a lot of consensus. There's some things that there's not, you know, some people would like us to go quite far with this and they'd like to see, you know, a stop put to any clear cutting. And some people want us to mind your own business and stay off their property, you know, so you get the two extremes. And as council, we're going to have to decide where we want to come out on this. So that's my comments for the moment. I think it's great that Deputy Mayor and Mrs. Haley not Deputy Mayor, the Mayor and Mrs. Haley have said get this back, because we do need that kick in the behind to get it moving forward again. And I'd like to see something happen before the end of this term, so it isn't passed on to the next council. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much, Councillor Lang. And no apologies needed. We have been very busy as a council on many other issues, so you do not need to apologize. I've had calls about it and want it come forward. So no apologies needed. Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Warden. So in terms of the timing for additional feedback, I'll defer to what Councillor Lang has said in terms of if his feeling is that there's been enough comments in, like if his sense is that there's been ample opportunity for comments so far, then I think that makes sense. But like he said, we still have, when it comes back, if it seems like it's still all of a sudden there's a deluge, then you can always delay it a bit. I had two questions for Ms. Haley. The first one is, so like for myself, I did submit a lot of comments. Did you want me to resubmit my comments, sort of to like make sure that they're up to date, or no? And my other comment is, you know, there was, and Councillor Lang alluded to this, is there probably will be overlap or cascade effect from this policy to our unopened road allowance bylaw. I'm just saying, is that something you're seeing is coming as, you know, at some point as part of this, or are you looking at those as completely separate, or what's your feeling on the process from that?
To you, Mr. Mayor, I'll answer both of those questions. So in regards to your comments that you provided to me, I have them. There's no need for you to resubmit them. The difficulty is, though, is I don't have direction to incorporate your comments. Those comments need to be discussed with all of council to make sure council's either in agreement or in support of your comments or not. So I could get feedback from 5 members of council that could be very, very different. And so then it puts me in a bit of a difficult position to understand what council really wants. And so I would prefer if council would give me, council as a whole would tell me how they want this policy to change. And when I created the policy, I followed the kind of the general direction of council at the time, knowing that we would absolutely have feedback from you and recommended changes. I just haven't received all of that as of yet. In terms of your next comment, the unopened road allowance bylaw is not intended to be rewritten at this time, but the policy was written, the tree canopy policy was written to be supportive of that current bylaw. If we want to bring that bylaw back, we certainly can. That bylaw falls within the responsibility of the Infrastructure Services Department. But I was not intending of doing that because these two policies this policy would work well with that bylaw.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Haley. Deputy Mayor Jaworski, do you have a problem sharing your comments with members of council individually?
No. I mean, that's I can certainly do that. I mean, I guess I'm a little bit. I get the way I thought this was working is not exactly what I thought. So I thought we were all feeding in the feedback to Ms. Haley, and then you're sort of working through the consensus. But I guess what I'm hearing from Ms. Haley is she would rather us be discussing sort of more individual ideas, I guess, rather than having written feedback, or am I mishearing you?
So just to clarify to all of council, I have only received feedback from some members of council. So until I receive feedback from all members, I'm not able to even give you really a summary of what I received for your consideration. That's kind of the point where I'm at. So once I hear from all of council, I could absolutely summarize that and then put it back before you for discussion. But I do need to hear from you just to allow me to get to that next step. And I want to produce something that you're going to be happy with. So that's why I need that feedback. And you may be supportive of some of the public comments and maybe not others. And again, I would like your opinion on what you're thinking from the comments that were received from the public. Thank you.
Okay, so final comment to Councillor McDonnell, and go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So as Ms. Haley, I've submitted my comments to you. Again, I think I resubmitted them, I guess, just the other day or just today, I think. But would you like us to, so I guess just to summarize kind of where Deputy Mayor Jaworski was at with this, like I did mine on basically took your report and I edited it. I did each priority action. This one I agree with, this one I don't, this is what I change. Do you want something like that? And then for us to kind of go through the public comments that are attached and kind of highlight what things we think are reasonable, what things we think are not reasonable within our opinion, or is that the best way to do this? I know this is a very contentious bylaw, I think, even for a lot of the population in the township. And especially there's some stakeholders that have a financial impact and there's some that have an emotional impact. So I just think we have to get this right and keep it in the right spot, I think. So
through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for your comments, Councillor McDonnell. And I think our councillors have done a great job in submitting their comments. The comments they're very differing. So that's where I need to have council to collectively provide me that direction. And you'll also see in the public meeting comments that some of them are common, but some of them are also very differing. And so at the end of the day, it really comes down to council. Do you want a very restrictive bylaw? Do you want a less restrictive bylaw, or policy, I should say? They're basically one and the same. Or do you want something that is in the middle that would do our best to accommodate as many comments and concerns and wishes of the public? The policy that was drafted is a policy that's easily implemented and enforced by administration. It is not overly costly or difficult for individuals to be able to conform to that policy. But again, I want to know what council is thinking, so we are going in the right direction, as you indicated, Councillor McDonnell.
Okay, so I think that you'll have your comments, all comments, by the second meeting in May or before that, and you'll have time to take those comments and do what you feel is right. And if it's not correct or not what council wants exactly, that's why it's a draft policy, and we'll have that conversation at that meeting if there's a specific issue. Like in regards to tonight, when we were talking about the animal bylaw, it was presented at first, second reading, and then there was a question about the doggy doo-doo issue, and we talked it out. And so I think that So will the second meeting in May, that'll be good for your schedule, Ms. Haley?
So, Mr. Mayor, looking at the calendar, in order for me to have a comprehensive staff report and possible amendments to the policy in time for the May 16th meeting, I would need council's reports or comments by by April 29th.
Okay, well, it's doable. This has been on the table for over 2 years, and I'll make sure that my comments are received. And I believe other members will as well, if you have anything else to add. So April 29th is the date.
Please. And
Okay.
then from there, I will then summarize council's comments. And what I'm hearing then, it doesn't seem like we'll be doing third reading on the May 16th meeting. We'll be discussing the comments on the May 16th meeting that will allow me to, or we do third reading.
No, we do third reading.
Okay.
We've had enough
Okay.
time, so
I'm looking at
you're quite capable of doing
Okay.
a staff report, and we'll do third reading. And if there's a specific line that wants to, it can be amended and we can vote on it at that night. That's what I would prefer. And again, if council chooses at that time to defer, it's council's prerogative. But I would like a third reading on the agenda for the 16th, second meeting in May, whatever the date is, please.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. No further discussion. Seeing none. Moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that staff report 52-2022 be received and that bylaw 18-2019, being a bylaw to establish a tree canopy and natural vegetation policy, be read a second time this 18th day of April 2022. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much for your work on this file, Ms. Haley. And moving on to new business. I believe it is the awards gala. Ms. Haley, I think. I'm sorry, I'm lost my spot here.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the purpose of the memo on the agenda this evening is to discuss the possibility of hosting an in-person community and business awards gala, and that would be held in September of 2022. I realize there's still a lot of unknowns ahead of us with the pandemic, but we are seeing many different businesses and facilities going back to full capacity. It would be administration's preference to host a full in-session awards gala, but we do need permission and recommendation from council to support this. If you choose not to, that's fine. We can plan for a 2023 in-person gala, and we will just continue to plan accordingly based on your response.
Okay, thank you very much for bringing this up, Ms. Haley. I, for one, and certainly am in favor of this. I think that, yes, there are still some struggles, but life is slowly getting back to normal. And I think that we have a lot of businesses in our community that would should be recognized. So I, for one, am in favor, and I'll put it to the floor for further discussion. Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Warden. No, I think we should definitely move forward. Things are looking, I think, better for that time frame, and I think it was something that was very valued by the community. So certainly, I'd like it to move forward. And I think in your staff report, you also asked if members of council would want to be involved in the selection committee. So certainly, I don't know how that might come about, but certainly that'd be something I'd be interested in participating in.
Thank you. Councillor McDonnell, then Councillor Lang.
I'll agree with the rest of you. I think it's something we should get back to. We've had businesses in the township have suffered a lot in the last 2 years, and I think it's time some of them maybe get some more recognition. And yeah, no, I agree. We get back to it. I would say I'd love to be a part of that selection committee, but I anticipate hopefully in the next 2 weeks to be very, very, very busy. So I'll defer to one of my council colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor Lang.
I'm in favor. I'd like to see it move forward. I'd like to nominate Rebecca to be the other member. She hasn't had too many. She's not on too many committees because she joined us late. So
I second that. All of those in favor. Councillor Luck.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I definitely agree that we should move this forward. As Councillor McDonnell said, these businesses, especially through COVID times, definitely need the recognition that they deserve. It's been hard for everyone, and I'll second Councillor Lang's nomination. Thank you.
Perfect. That's great. So Ms. Haley, we look forward to hearing updates throughout the summer, and getting a date chosen sooner than later would probably be best for everyone's schedule. So you have our blessing.
That's great. Thank you. And I'll definitely be in touch with our new approach for reviewing of the nominees. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much. Good news for sure. Okay, we're moving on to 7DE, and it's emergency water work update. And I believe Deputy Mayor Jaworski asked that to be pulled.
Thank you. We're already there. I did ask for that to be pulled, and I just wanted to make a quick comment for staff that I really appreciate them putting together that document. It's not something that I've seen in the past, and I felt that it was super helpful to sort of, concisely review what's happened in the last year, and it's a good document also for posterity as well. So thank you very much for putting it together. And I know that at the time, because a lot of these incidences sort of happened in a cluster, Mayor Warden at that point said, acknowledged how hard staff worked during those events to get the system up and running as quickly as they did. And yeah, thank you very much. And also, it's quite impressive, the repairs. I mean, obviously in real dollars, those are big costs, but also compared to other industrial work that's done, it's actually, I was kind of impressed by the price. I thought it would actually be worse. So thank you for your efforts on that.
Yeah, I certainly concur, and staff were great getting that done. So well done, Ms. McDonald. You and Mr. Sege did a great job on that. Any other questions? Yep. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, moved by Martin Lang, second by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry accept the items presented on the agenda as committee reports and for information purposes only. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to closed session, moved by Sam McDonnell, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that council convene to close session at 8:04 p.m. to discuss the following items under section 239(2) of the Municipal Act SO 2001. 2, a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being discussed is D, labor relations or employee negotiations, specifically staffing member. H, information explicitly supplied in confidence to municipality by Canada, a province or territory, or a crown agency of any of them, specifically staff report 55-2022. K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on by the municipality, specifically staff report 56-2022. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Thanks for attending the first portion of tonight's meeting. We will be back after the closed session. See you soon.